Well, hello there, motherfuckers. And I wanted to do another video game review, video game memory video. I haven't done this in like a couple of weeks now. Last time I think I did Link to the Past. Super Mario 64. I was gonna do a Super Mario World, but I think I'll save that for another time. So I've been playing Super Mario 64, and really in like a week, I've already have like 90 something stars. I'm up to what is it? Little Big Mountain or something like that. Whatever it is. I just finished completely doing Tall Mountain. I have to say about this game, it's aged pretty well. It really has. You know, the biggest problem I have with this game is that it was the first 3D game, which is the same thing that I like about it. I love about it that it's historic, is that it's the first successful 3D game really. I believe that this one predated Crash Bandicoot. I think that was like 97, whatever it may be. Um, not really doing a lot of research for this video. It's just mainly a vlog, so excuse all the video game historians out there. But that's what the comment section's for. But I believe that this was one of the first 3D games out there. And the thing about this game is that it was really starting to really work the kinks out. So unfortunately, it kind of was like a template for all 3D games. The same thing that made it popular was kind of when you look back at it in retrospect is the same flaws. The things that made it great were also its flaws. And one of the biggest issues with 3D was how are you going to view this new perspective. We had nothing but top down and side scrollers pretty much for 2D games. So now that we were entering into the third dimension, I mean, how was this going to look? We saw Sonic 3D Blast was an isometric view. Um, and that wasn't horrible looking. Some people think it looks horrible. I didn't think it really looked that horrible at the time on the Genesis. And in fact, I actually kind of enjoyed the look. But a lot of people didn't for some reason. I don't know that it was just at the time, really, because there wasn't so much internet. But I guess people looking back on it don't really like how it looked. When you look at it in comparison to other 3D games, of course, it wasn't impressive. But that's neither here nor there. It's about Super Mario 64, really, and what this game brought to the table. The graphics look pretty good to this day. I mean, 64 is known for having blocky, sort of jagged, textures to them. But this game looks pretty smooth, really. Like I kind of think back on 64 and I remember games like GoldenEye with blocky heads and, really unimpressive character models. At the time, they looked okay, but still, I remember even criticizing them for the square heads. But Super Mario 64 proved that it looks pretty damn good. And it still does to this day by 64-bit standards for 1996. The game still looks pretty good, and the environments, well, sometimes they're not as lively as say Super Mario World, not as colorful. I mean, there is a lot of bright textures, but there's also some dullness in there too. Sometimes the level designs don't look really fully impressive. Like uh, the cave level, the mine, and levels like Wet Dry World. Like they don't look that impressive. In fact, they look kind of bland. Levels like the Babam Field and Womp's Fortress, they look a lot more appealing. But certain levels, you can kind of see that, well, maybe they didn't know what to do with them, but they just didn't look as good. You looked at like the underground stage in Super Mario World, the caves, and you would see glistening backgrounds, and it looked very beautiful. It looked very eye catching, and a lot of these levels are not very eye catching. They're just kind of by the numbers. They're just going according to the environment. They needed an underground level, so it looks like it's underground, but it's not really that eye catching. It's just there for the sake of presenting it as a level. It's not there to really impress you like Super Mario World was. That game was there to service what was needed at a level, an underground level, a water level, and they would give it to you, but it would be visually pleasing. It's not as visually pleasing in Super Mario 64 a lot of the time. Now, that's not to say everything. There's a lot of beauty in it. Particularly when you look up into the light, I think when you achieve 20 stars or something like that, and you've got the wing cap for the first time, and you have to, collect the 8 red coins and stomp on the switch in order to activate that power up for all the levels. That part looks majestic. That part looks beautiful. That part looks impressive. It looks visually appealing. Um, and that is like one of the moments when it does, because there are a lot of moments when you're going to look at it and you are going to be visually splendid. And thing was, it really wasn't so much about detail back then. In '96, this would begin the graphics war. People were just now astonished by the fact that these games were now 3D and they were popping out at you for the first time instead of being flat cardboard cutouts and just basically drawings. These are actually lively polygons coming at you. And so that was pretty much, the order of the day back then. Everybody was just pretty much impressed with the graphics. And I didn't really like that about that era of gaming. I liked that era of gaming with the PlayStation N64 wars. But, I didn't like the mentality that went into it, where it was all about, who can make the better looking game. And that's when it really all started. It always had been about the graphics, but it hadn't really been so much about that until that time. Now, okay, the problem also they have with this game is not just the visual presentation. Well, it also does have to do with the visuals, but not so much the graphics quality. Is the camera. The camera drove me nuts, and I think because I really was taking a lot of time in this game for the first time now to do like a lot of the 100 coin missions to get those stars and everything, because I'm going for all the stars this time around, something I've never done before, and I'm pretty damn close. Um, the camera was driving me nuts. That fucking thing was all over the place. And, I'm still currently playing the game. It is driving me insane. It is just, whirling all around at times. And the camera is like very, very stubborn. It does not stay, even when you're standing in the same position where you adjusted the camera, where you just adjusted the camera in that same spot, that same pixel of a spot, it will still insist on going where it wants to go. And that is very, very annoying. And it led to many deaths for me. It really did. It sent me off cliffs, and that's another thing I want to talk about. Not only is the camera just, dizzying at times and just so frustrating, it's the control in this game. Now, I do like the controls. I think to pull off some of Mario's moves, the controls are pretty slick at times, but they're also another S word, slippery. They are fucking slippery, and I can't begin to tell you how many times that one motion. I'm playing this on the Wii, mind you, the virtual consoles. I'm using the GameCube controller, which is a pretty damn good controller, and that's a good fucking analog stick. I don't. I don't know if it's as precise as the 64 one, but I have to tell you that there's a lot of times when Mario's movements feel kind of random, and he's just so slippery. When you're running and you want to change direction, sometimes it just does whatever the fuck it wants, and that's really bad because there's a lot of narrow ledges and and cliffs in this game, and there's a lot of climbing. Yes, there's a lot of climbing in this game. There's a lot of missions for the stars where you have to get to the top of a mountain, get to the top of a pyramid, get to the top of a tall structure. And if you're running up it, and all of a sudden you come to like a cliff or something, or some type of hazard, and you want to try to avoid it, it's kind of hard. It really fucking is. Now luckily when it comes times for like certain jumps, it's pretty fair. Like when you have to use like wall jumps and some other cool moves that they add. And that's the thing about this game that I like is what it added to the repertoire. Keep in mind in the previous game, not counting Yoshi's Island, um, all Mario could do was just jump and do that spin attack. That was it. Now he could punch, he could jump kick, he could wall jump, he could triple jump. He could do this fucking side flip. He could do a back flip. It's amazing. I mean, the number of it's not like they didn't have enough buttons to work with on the Super Nintendo, but they now take advantage of just basically everything on there. And really, it's really pretty much all done with the A button and the Z button, and combination of the analog stick. You really don't need anything else. Um, and and the B button, of course, for the attack. But you really don't need anything else. It's really just harboring around three buttons and the analog stick, and that's great because it really makes it easy to control. But the thing is, it's like sometimes it's just not fair because the controls are just not responsive enough, or maybe it is that they are responsive and they're maybe just a little bit too much so, because there's something called loose control. When you're kind of given a little bit too much control and you kind of want it to be a little bit more stiff, especially when the game is offering such precise platforming at times. I can't begin to tell you on Tall Mountain how many times when I was jumping on those big mushrooms, there was these tiny mushrooms, and I would jump to get the red coin, and I could have sworn that my jump was lined up properly, and I would end up just bumping into the side of it and just falling into oblivion. That was frustrating. That was just, I don't know, at times it just felt fucking unacceptable that just didn't feel like that should have happened. Um, just sometimes the jumps feel a bit off in this game, and it's not a good thing in the Mario game, but just the control is just so damn slippery, and it sometimes you panic in this game, like Lethal Lava World or things like that, where falling or very bad things that could happen and could lead to very easy death, or the thing is sometimes you're like just your reflexes get the best of you and you just end up falling, and it doesn't help with those type of reflexes when you have slippery controls to work with. Not a good thing. But I gotta say, honestly, this is a historic game. This is a game that, gave birth to many other games, so to speak. Everything followed in its footsteps. There were so many games that tried to be like Super Mario 64. Even games developed for the same system like Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, you name it. Donkey Kong 64. These games wanted to be Super Mario 64. They had the essence of Super Mario 64 from within. But yeah, so the game, really, the big flaws with it that you'll be looking at if you're gonna go back and play this game again is the camera, which is sort of downright atrocious at times. It doesn't really get in the way or anything. But I'll be perfectly honest with you, games like Sonic Adventure have better cameras. And I remember there was some criticism about that. I'll even be honest with you, I think the controls in Sonic Adventure are a bit more precise. So, I remember that there was a lot of criticism towards Sonic Adventure at the time because they were saying that it was just a Super Mario 64 clone. It was a clone and it wasn't as good as that, and it was trying to be that. And it really wasn't the same thing. It actually, in some departments, was a little bit better. It really was. But I don't know, it didn't really get that recognition at the time. But that's what I've noticed playing these games pretty close together. They're really the same type of goal that they're going for, but it's really some things were improved upon on it with that. So I thought that was interesting, kind of, that a game that was criticized for copying another actually did certain things a little bit better. Um, So, what was a better game? Sonic Adventure, Super Mario 64? I have to say, probably Super Mario 64. It's kind of a better experience. A little bit more to do in it. A bit of a better adventure, so to speak. So there you go. I do recommend this game still. Just watch out for the fucking controls and the fucking camera, and you're gonna have a good time. All right, motherfucker.